What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Meltdown, featuring me, Llama77, and that guy over there, your boy Q. It's number 10, big number 10 today. And Q, how we doing this morning?
Yo, I'm feeling great, man. You mentioned number 10. You'd be surprised how many podcasts don't make it a double digit. So we're already here putting into work. We appreciate y'all tuning in for yet another one. And we got ourselves a pretty hefty docket here, man. We got a lot going on in esports. We got an interview to get to in a little bit. I'm excited.
I'm excited as well. It's a lot of fun. Like we always say, it's a good time to be an esports fan. As a reminder, in case you missed any of those previous episodes, they're up on YouTube. You can go watch them. You can catch yourself back on up. And as a reminder, if you do see the shorts popping up in your feed at any moment, gotta let those play on through. But let's talk about some RLCS, Q.
Yeah, let's talk about some RLCS, man. We got to see qualifier number 4 across a couple of regions. Of course, the one we're going to talk about the most going to be NA, and talk about a way to start off split number 2, a grand finals that goes all the way the distance in a best of 7, triple overtime. And yeah, I mean, it's the same face as G2 and Gen G, but it felt a little bit different this time, didn't it?
Definitely did. It felt like Gen G might have started to found that angle. I know we were kind of talking a bit on previous podcasts, like, okay, G2 is just the best. Is anybody going to be able to beat them? Points-wise, probably not, but it looks like teams are starting to get better and better. And it really does feel like Gen G, G2 started to get a little bit closer and closer on that level as well.
You know what's exciting about the fact that Gen G is starting to figure things out? One, of course, it means that we've got 2 teams that really are kind of getting to that point where they can compete on the world stage. But do you know what else that tells me from qualifier number 4? Is the Snowmen just might be for real. They took down Gen G in the Swiss stages. We saw them able to make their main event, able to make their first top 4. We've talked a lot on the podcast in the past about the young talent coming up and how we've got plenty of it here in NA. The Snowmen put on a show this weekend.
Absolutely did. And honestly, it's kind of interesting. Like you talk about Moist and Cloud9 both entering the scene, picking up different rosters. Now they're seeing Snowmen up and available maybe to take. But I got to say, it's just a really, really exciting performance. That, like you said, not only are the improvement is continuing from the entire region, but we're also seeing some of the youngsters. It's always nice to see the storylines of the old guard winning championships and winning, regional after regional. But it's nice to see, new teams challenging that old guard too.
Well, especially when you look at the Snowmen too, right? I think in particular when we look at Frosty, a player who very briefly was on NRG, gets dropped very quickly afterwards. You have this wonder of, is it because kids are kids and shouldn't be playing that young, playing a professional sport? And then all of a sudden you have 3 kids getting together and proving that it can indeed be done. I feel like a very fun story too, also showing that, maybe not giving enough credit to the young talent, not just in NA, but across the world. And I think when we look back at some of our other episodes in the past, when we can kind of get some of this new talent kind of starting to switch in with some of the old talent, it should be fun to watch. But I think when you look at Snowmen's Swiss bracket, you take down TSM, people might feel some type of way. TSM, a newer team, they've haven't quite been able to make their way out of Swiss, I don't think quite yet, if I'm not mistaken. But then also being able to take down, and I feel like I've said this right a couple of times. I know I'm going to botch it this time. Nether Lamera Canada. There it is. So you beat those 2. You're like, not the roughest of Swiss stages, but then they go against Gen G, and then they go the distance. It's not like they just catch Gen G off, right? And they just have a really good series. It was a back and forth, and they were able to withstand the test of time, going 3-0 through Swiss, then able to win their quarterfinal matchup as well. I'm excited to see what happens the longer these Snowmen stay together.
I'm excited too. And honestly, it's not crazy and out of the question that they do go to the LAN. I mean, you've got 2 regionals left to go. You're only down 13 points. If you have the performance that you had in that previous qualifier, and even if you do better, all of a sudden you are chasing with the best. I specifically, when you talk about Snowmen though, I think of Reveal. Again, a player that we've also seen kind of just, we'll get to talk to KnightYuh a little bit later and kind of his experience of, grinding through the, bubble scene, going through the ranked and trying to get there. But Reveal is another player that's just like, okay, I'm in the grind set. I don't care if I'm young. You're going to notice me because I'm winning all these tournaments and winning all these events.
Putting in the grind, putting in the time, and you just feel like over more time we'll get the true positive exposure that's kind of I don't want to say expected, deserving of the time that they have been putting in. We also have seen some other teams, though, that popped off this past weekend. Cloud9 with the org buff, maybe first top 8 for the old Omelet squad, looking pretty solid. What we also get to talk a little bit later with the former Cloverity, now Cold roster. We sat down with KnightYuh. They were able to make their way through and into Swiss as well. A lot going on in NA this last weekend.
There's been a lot. And honestly, it's kind of, again, it's like this new guard, kind of new-ish guard. I mean, there are some, like, Cloud9 does have some of the, more experienced players on their roster. But yeah, the new guard coming up to step up against some of these teams. And that's kind of the more surprising thing, though. Like, for the overall, like, orgs that were already established before this one that didn't have the greatest performance, I mean, the questions are starting to arise. Like, is this going to be a half where, Cloud9 come back, where Cloud9 steal away one of those spots where, you talk about the cold roster, even though they got into that Swiss stage, they did fall out a little bit earlier than they would have wanted. They also had a really, really tough Swiss stage because I think they were like the 15 seed.
Yeah, I think they went in as the 16 seed, so they played G2, then you ended up getting Shopify, and then you played TSM, who had their backs against the wall as well, and TSM was able to win that one and keep their drive alive. I think there's a lot to still be unfolded here over the course of these last 2 events. Even when you talk about teams like Space Station, I mean, they pushed G2 the distance in their semifinal matchup. Finally showing that, hey, if we don't cross Gen G or G2 in the quarterfinals, top 4 is an easy place for us. If they continue to have performances like that, not only is Major 2 a possibility, but even being able to slide up into one of those top 4 spots for Worlds, depending on how they do at said major. So I feel like NA still probably the top 2 spots pretty well locked. I think that this last weekend kind of secured that, right? Gen G, G2, still very much 1-2 at the top of NA. 3 to, who knows, 9, 11, something like that, all kind of in this horse race that goes back and forth.
It really does. And honestly, I give some more credit to OG. I think they were kind of silently once again making main event, making it into the top 8. They didn't make it past the first round. They lost again. But at the same time, they've been very consistent over the course of these now 4 regional qualifiers. So they've been quietly just picking up points, slowly extending that lead, which is the real question for these other teams. Are you going to be able to surpass their points? If OG just keeps on, if OG, Genji, and OG, Genji, G2, excuse me, if they keep winning, how are you going to be able to catch up?
Yeah, if they continue at least getting those top 8s, it is definitely hard because then all they need to do is get to LAN and maybe earn themselves a top 8 there, and they're pretty well locked into those world spots. So it is going to be intriguing. Also kind of interesting looking across the regions. Qualifier number 1 being over when we talk about not only major, but even some worlds implications, more so on the major itself or major 2, because of course, no matter where you're at, those points in split 1, those don't matter for the major, right? What matters is the points that you accrue over the course of split 2. We saw Rule 1, a team that has very consistently been performing at the tippy top of MENA. Of course, they've started kind of having this, back and forth with Team Falcons over the last 12, 18-ish months or so, maybe more so 12 months. But Rule 1 had an early exit this time around, going out in the quarterfinals. So with them going out that early and with the fact that MENA only gets 2 slots to the major, it looks like Rule 1 is going to be missing the major. It's not the first time in a while. I think they missed the second major, or third major last year. But to see them falling this early, especially after some changes, you wonder if maybe there's going to be still some more changing the guard over in that in the camp there.
I mean, that's what I hope. I mean, again, as much as I love giving these stories of the experienced players that keep on winning, the dynasty, the legacy, it's really cool to see those shakeups, to not have okay, these are your top 5 teams. They're super complacent. They're just the best because of skill, and no one's able to challenge them. That's why I like the new talent being able to come up and challenge them. And it also means that for these top teams, especially in MENA where you only have 2 slots, you can't act like you're safe. Even if you are Team Falcons that is sitting up there on 80 points on the overall leaderboard right now, you still have to think we got to keep improving. There are going to be teams on our tail.
So speaking of other places where we'll now have a new team representing the region, for people who don't know, who are watching in, your boy works over in the SSA region, Sub-Saharan Africa, and we saw Limitless, a team that has made a long list of grand finals in a row, going out relatively early, going out in the quarter or the semifinals. I'm sorry. Or no, quarterfinals. Yeah, going out in the quarterfinals. So in a similar situation like Rule 1, where you're going out this early and they only get one spot in SSA, it looks like SSA is going to have a new representative at LAN.
It seems so. And honestly, kind of all these new teams flooding in, all this like new talent from other places. I think, it's good and bad. You can kind of talk about like it's non-region representatives of the actual region, but it is making the region better as a whole. It's making it more competitive. It's not just Limitless taking it the entire time, taking every single series. So for Team Mobula, I think honestly, relatively clean. I gotta say, even in that kind of final where it did go 4-2, it was a little bit closer. I feel like their run a little bit unexpected.
A little unexpected, but I gotta say, from getting to talk with VK a couple of times throughout the weekend over on the desk, talk about an interesting approach to the game. So obviously had some success in the past in the EU region, now has this new squad, and their goal is to qualify for majors out of different regions. Kind of a cool concept when you think about from his side. You're getting to travel the world and play Rocket League at the highest of levels and still get to qualify for majors because you're just that darn good. So I gotta say, from that perspective, really cool story. It is kind of unfortunate to see the extra stress that it is adding within the region you talked about with the imports and things. The one thing that I will say, especially because I follow quite a few of the players within the region, we didn't have this problem in Split 1 when Limitless was able to defend the turf. The rules haven't changed. Nothing's changed except the fact that a team has come in and shown that Limitless can indeed fall. You can't all of a sudden start being mad. As someone who played basketball in college, look, man, I was a sixth man my freshman year, right? Sophomore year comes across, two people leave because they graduate out. Does that mean all of a sudden I start? No, I got to worry about the new talent coming in there looking for their piece of the pie as well, right? You've got to make sure that you continue to look in the lab. And I got to be honest, I'm just going to call it as I see it. From quite a bit of the talent within the region, I didn't see that same sort of edge in their game. It seems like we've seen a little bit of complacency. It's time to get in the lab and take this thing serious if you want it to be that serious.
And it's like we just talked about, right? Like, even if you're the top team, you can't be sitting complacent. You have to try and battle to keep on improving and keep on, recognizing the strategies. If you take a day off, you say, okay, this team's going to be easy to beat, and then you don't VOD review them, well, then it's your own dang fault that you lose. But like you said, it is kind of adding that little bit of extra stress in the region, with these imports and stuff. And I did see a little bit of a Twitter clip that was talking about, for the final regional, should there be,
I love it.
If you win the final regional, should you get an automatic bid towards that major?
I love it. I do got to say, if we're going to do that, though, we got to expand our major field. That's the big thing for me. 16, because otherwise, then what you're saying, top 3 teams from EU and NA go, and then this. Now, granted, it could be one of the top 3 teams that win, and then it's top 4 or whatever, right? But I love the idea of, you would imagine at the end of a split, the teams that are the best in their region should be performing at the top of their region, right? So they should be the ones that are taking home the dub. So if you happen to have a team that catches fire late, I think it gives more of an incentive for that mid-pack team, especially those just outside the playoff bubble, to still show up and perform every single event, in particular that last major where it could be more about the positioning for those top 4 spots as well with their points.
Yeah, I would say, though, like you said, we do have to expand a little bit. Like, I would love a 24-team major. I would love some more games. I'd love to give some more spots towards these other regions. And, maybe it would even be more exciting. Like, you give North America and EU both 5 slots all of a sudden. And then, like, it gets really spicy because then you're adding in the factor of, like, oh, maybe you get a cold in there. Maybe you get a snowman in there that could, like, absolutely cause havoc at Worlds or at the major, which would be really, really fun to see. But, again, like you said, we'd probably have to expand. We'd probably have to make some changes, but I think we both kind of saw it and we're like, oh, that reminds us of Apex. Like, you get into the finals, you still have a chance as long as you're in the finals, but RLCS is not Apex, unfortunately.
Right. You don't have as much RNG to play around throughout the weeks and everything too. But I think that's, again, when we look at Apex, the reason that they do it, I don't think that regional finals is about making sure necessarily that the top, in, let's say, North America's region, this split, the top 12 teams go. That regional final is supposed to be a spectacle for the fans. I think that, one thing between that and match point format, they show that it's about driving the viewership. I wouldn't mind seeing that for Rocket League. I really think that it would kind of not that Rocket League's having problems with viewership, but if you can throw in a little bit of extra spice, sometimes the change might even be enough to bring some of the old eyes back. You know what I mean? But
All right. That's a lot of interesting stuff for RLCS, but we've got a really, really interesting thing here today, Q. We've actually joined by the amazing presence of the one and only KnightYuh. KnightYuh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. How about you, Llama?
I am doing fantastic. Even better that I get to talk to you here today. Tell me a little bit how you're feeling, being one of the teams that is top 16 in North America right now.
It feels pretty amazing because kind of at first, like I would say last split when we were like top 32-ish and kind of going through our getting better as a team and also with Lev, it was just a huge jump from going from that to making main event. It was just something I did not expect when we first played.
I'm kind of curious, what would you say has been like the biggest change for you as far as like getting to that next level? I like as far as for making your first main event, right? Was it more like a shift in mentality, a change to like how you approach practice, the game? Like, what's up?
Definitely was a shift in practice a little bit. I would say I did a lot more focus on doing more training on myself and in games against pros just so I can have that experience. But it was mainly a mental thing because it definitely is a huge adjustment the second you start playing in main event.
Yeah, I 100% get that. And it's kind of nice to see that shift. And it's awesome to see also like the talent at such a young age. I know me and Q always talk about that, this new generation that's coming up to beat the old guard. So are there any expectations that like now that you've earned some kind of points, you might be seated a little bit higher? I know you had a really tough run through Swiss. Is there any expectations for qualifier 5?
Yeah, I think we can definitely make a repeat of making main event again. It just kind of depends on how we do on our bracket, but I think we'll pretty much do fine.
So, KnightYuh, we've obviously seen you guys competing quite a bit in the Frost events, and now you guys are starting to see some success in the RLCS events. But obviously, there's a difference in the people that you were playing against. Obviously, the skill gap's a little bit different, right? So tell me, like, what's the difference in preparation on game day for, let's say, an RLCS qualifier versus, hey, it's Monday night and we're getting with the boys and going to do the Frost Weekly?
Well, if we're doing the Frost Weekly, honestly, I just usually just play like ranked a little bit before the Frost and just chill on that part. But if it's LCS, I gotta do a little bit more of a hardcore training just to prepare myself for when we play against our opponents.
That's good. I like to see the different preparation and kind of those different mentalities, like you said, to prepare yourself for the different environments. But I guess tell me a little bit about those two teams, because I know Pigeon hopped in here for a little bit. We were talking to him after he got the "you just got pigeon" catchphrase in the Frost Discord. But I mean, it seems like you guys are just having fun with that team. But is that what the Frost team is for? Like you just hop it in, like you said, with your friends to just have some fun?
Yeah, that's kind of pretty much how the main we did it. I don't remember if it was Lev or Pigeon that brought it up, but they just randomly told us, hey, let's run Frost, and that's kind of how it all started. And then Lev got the Llama name, of course. He brought that all up.
I love it. I love it. So, KnightYuh, we have seen you play on some different rosters between, the Frost Weeklies and things like that. And obviously, a couple changes in the RLCS level as well. I'm kind of curious, what is it that you're like looking for in a teammate? Like more so for sure, like the RLCS quals, because it seems like, Frost and the Weeklies is more about the fun. But what are some of the big things that you look for when you're trying to put together that 3 for the next qualifier?
Well, besides like the obvious skill in a player, you kind of want like a passion that you can tell from a teammate and kind of a teammate that's good with vibes and easygoing. Because if the vibes are good with your teammate, then obviously while you're playing, you're gonna have a boost in your confidence. And that's kind of what I look for in a teammate.
Yeah, definitely don't want to tilt, don't want to have the whole team flying off the rails. And, kind of talking about your current team that made that top 16. I know everybody, especially at that high level in RLCS, you're providing comms, you're giving information. Is there one player on that team that kind of is that more in-game leader role, or do you all just like contribute equally?
I would say we somewhat contribute equally, but I would say it's more so on the XR or JD part.
I love it. I love it. So I'm kind of curious as far as moving forward. What do things look like? Is it the last couple weeks? Is it just more about obviously your guys are staying with the same roster? And we had the Clovery situation. Are we still looking for an org for the last couple of events? Or right now is it more, hey, let's focus on ourselves, get ourselves in a position where in the off season we can really almost like set that marketing team to then worry about kind of the org support?
It's definitely just kind of focusing on for this RLCS because after while the Clover situation was going on, we kind of got a little distracted on that part, and it kind of a little bit affected our result in Swiss. But I don't want to put too much blame on that part. But we're kind of looking to just focus for the RLCS first, and then after how we play in day 1 to day 3, then we'll be looking for orgs after that.
Yeah, that's awesome. If anybody's looking for an org, by the way, you better go pick up your boy KnightYuh and his entire team because they're going to be finding success for sure. I got an interesting question that, like, obviously you got to the main event, super fantastic, congratulations. Is there any team you're like looking forward to either playing again that you maybe lost to, or a team you're looking forward to play in this next qualifier that might just like excite you as a team to play?
I'll definitely say Social Team for sure because I remember we got completely smacked when we played against them, but the games are close. But we scrimmaged against them and we felt really good playing against them. So I think we definitely would want to play that team, or I'd say repeat soon.
Okay.
Those are 2 teams.
So I also got a question for you, boss man. How many more of these weeklies you guys trying to take away in the next couple of months, man? I feel like we're starting to beat up on the kids a little bit. We gotta give them a chance, right?
Yeah. I honestly think we're just gonna keep going until we pretty much can. Like if we have scrims or something, because they don't feel like stopping. I don't feel like stopping either. Then.
I mean, when the results are coming in, I don't blame you. You know what I mean? Like,
I understand.
Yeah, I mean, crazy also history. Like, I know we talk about every single time on broadcast, but getting the 4 in a row, breaking the Frost record, and then being able to still, even when like you guys aren't winning, you're getting, top 2s, top 3s. So it's really nice, honestly, for me to see, like, again, usually you have players just like sticking together for their entirety of whatever the season, but it's nice to see that you have kind of this team that you can play with on weekends, quote unquote, that you can just have some fun with. I mean, is it like, a stress reliever from that other team that you can play with this team too?
I wouldn't say it's like a stress reliever, but it's definitely just kind of a thing that just to chill on, or if I want to mess around, that's
Sure.
where like Lev or I probably do that the most because we're just kind of free to do whatever.
Cool. That's really awesome. And then finally, I kind of have like a looking forward thing. Like I know we kind of talked about RLCS. Everybody wants to make it back to the main event, but are there any big like this could be like ranked goals, life goals, any goals you have for yourself that you want to accomplish in the future?
Yeah, I'll definitely say for sure in ones, I want to at least get, I'd say top 30. And then besides that, I would say just honestly, just try to get top 100s consistently.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty much the main thing I can think of.
I love it. I love it. I guess one last thing that I would love to ask KnightYuh, for anyone who's listening who's maybe thinking about making that transition from being more of a ranked grinder to like making the push to try and really be serious as far as working towards RLCS quals, what would be like the one like biggest piece of advice that you'd give to people like just getting in?
I would just say, as weird as it sounds, your ranked MMR doesn't really full on matter, doesn't really determine your skill. That's kind of an issue that a lot of players had and I used to have when I would think, oh, I'm at this, so I'm bad, or I'm not here, and this other guy's a little bit higher, so I'm way worse. But honestly, as long as you put the time in offline or just training, that'll give you more results than just trying to get your results from being at this MMR or this rank in a certain time.
That's awesome. It's all about the team, like you said, the team around you, the vibes and stuff. So that's all the questions I do have. I do have one final thing. This is going to be open floor. If you have like a chance to shout out anybody, your teammates, your coaches, it could be your mom, anybody that's kind of helped you get to this point.
Yeah, I'll definitely say my mom. My mom definitely helped me out a lot, but I'll definitely say I'd probably say Left Right for sure, because he definitely, even though like he is a really goofy, he definitely like helped me get better as a player, 100%. And yeah, that's pretty much all the shouts I can think of.
Cool.
I love it. I love it. Well, KnightYuh, I appreciate you taking some time to come out and chat some ball with us, man. I know that there's been a lot that's kind of going on. I want to kind of stray away from the negativity. I really just kind of want to dig in and learn a little bit about you. So we appreciate you taking some time, sitting down with us. And, hopefully next time we get to sit down and do this, it's because we're talking about the fact that you won yourself your first event, huh?
Yeah, definitely for sure. That would definitely be fun to do sometime.
All right, brother. We'll let you get up on out of here. We got to wrap up the rest of this episode, fam, but I appreciate you hanging tight with us.
Yeah, thank you. I'll see you later.
Rocket League's fun, man. We're finally here. Split 2's back. I feel like I want to save EU for next week, though.
Yeah.
I feel like because next week we're not going to have as many regions to talk about. We'll talk about OCE a little bit, which, by the way, excited to see OCE is getting a broadcast back. I'd love to see more minor regions getting those broadcasts. I think that's huge. But I want to stick out bigger regions right now, Llama. I want to go over to VCT, and we're heading down the home stretch, baby. It's the last week for Americas. And man, talk about Crew's still undefeated. Talk about some surprises. NRG, Sentinels possibly both missing playoffs, maybe Loud as well. Like, what's going on?
I mean, I thought what was most interesting was kind of all of the drama going around that like Loud Sentinels matchup. That like after Sentinels lost, they're like, yeah, we're kind of feeling the heat. Like it's that same thing of we're the world champions, sure, but we didn't get any rest. We've been playing straight. We've been scrimming. We've been just playing to try and win at least a single game, and falling a little bit short in that matchup. I think they're mathematically out of playoffs. Correct me if I'm wrong at this point. So
I believe Sentinels. I believe the group Alpha is still technically wide open because the round differentials is so close. Because like them in Cloud9, well, I guess Cloud9 can only go to 2. But when you look at a team like G2, if they like have a really tough loss, which they do have a tougher game this week, I believe I think G2's the one that's playing Loud. Is that right? Yeah, G2's playing Loud. That could be one of those games where you lose 20 rounds on your round differential. Then you have Sentinels. I mean, playing Furia, they should be able. No offense, Furia. They should be able to like get a good round plus differential on their round, go from like 9 to probably at least 19, maybe 20 something. So because of the round differential, things are still open, but Sentinels do have to win.
Yeah, they do have to win here in this next week. I think you were talking about surprises, and I will tell you, I tuned into the VCT stream. I'm like, oh, Fury's up 1-0. They're going to beat my Cloud9 team. I should just turn this thing off. And then I'm like, okay, I'm checking back later. Wait, what the heck? It's 1-1. Wait, what the heck? Cloud9 won. They came back, and I'm like, okay, this should be a match that Cloud9 won. But it just surprised me. Like, even though Furia, again, 0-4, it's a match that, again, you think teams should be winning against. They're finding ways to step up against these top teams.
They're finding ways to have flashes for sure over Furia. I'm hoping that they let it cook too much and they don't blow up the roster because they have some flashes of greatness. But I'm not going to lie, I was watching the beginning of that series, and all of a sudden I had concerns for Cloud9. Because going through the season, Cloud9 has been this team that doesn't necessarily beat the teams that they should be beating, or at least they aren't beating up on them the way that they should be beating up on them. I mean, you're 4-1, right? You're 4-1, but your map count is 8-6. You're only plus 14 on the round differential. It just shows how close things have been for you throughout the season. And I think if they would have lost against a Furia, then there would have been some almost concern, even though you're playing against an MIBR team that is sitting at the bottom of their division. You're like, well, shoot, we just lost to Furia. Now what? Now it's like that quicksand in your head. So at least they were able to come out with a dub. I think that's the big thing for them. And I feel like they should be able to secure themselves a spot in Group Alpha.
I think so too. I think they're far enough ahead, like you said, with the overall wins. It's a little bit hard to see them not making it there, but I guess we'll just have to see how this final week does play out. The one big surprise to me, I mean, even though we're talking about, again, Loud, we just saw them on the world stage get top 4. Able to go 0-3 to start out their season is not really how I expected it. So to win over Sentinels, I think really is the biggest surprise of the week.
It's the surprise of the week for me, for sure. And because it allows them to stay there. If they lose that, they have no chance to be able to still qualify for the playoffs. And granted, G2 isn't going to be easy. G2s look decent at times. I think it's also a big motivating factor just on the mental side. I think for me, my biggest surprise was what happened to this super team that everybody thought was forming an NA of NRG. And they looked decent to start. You take down Loud. Now, Furia, you should probably beat them. But then it's been, you lose to Leviathan. Yeah, you beat MIBR, but you lose to Evil Geniuses. And now this team looks like they are not going to make a second LAN this year.
It looks like it. And honestly, it's not doom and gloom just yet. I mean, they're still 3-2. It's the regular season not over. They're still going to have another week to try and prove themselves. But I feel like kind of it's the like losing matches you shouldn't lose mentality where, like you said, this was built to be the super team. And usually, honestly, in any sport, when you're like, oh, let's just build a super team, we'll just take the best players. It's never working out because like there are those underlying issues of like the communications or something else. But to lose to like an Evil Geniuses squad, albeit 2-1, that was kind of, on this like downturn, it feels awkward.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be intriguing to see what happens because it's a short season. Like, it's not like you have time to make that, which also we do, I feel like, kind of have to talk about. We got to get rid of the big old long off season and get more regular season, which is so weird to say because, of course, we're also saying, well, we need a bigger gap between Masters 1 and the regular season, which is also very true. But we've got so much summer left and we don't really have that much Valorant left when you look at it, right? We've got one more week in most of our regions. I think EU has 2. I might be mistaken. I think one of the regions has 2 left.
Yeah.
But then we've got Masters again for Shanghai, LCQ, and then we've just got World Championship. It's like, where is our season gone? Challenger Split 1's already gone. And I feel like I only was able to catch like 3 games. I haven't been able to watch any Valorant this year. It feels like for a esport that it seems like the ecosystem is built in the way that we should be able to have. Maybe not esports all year round. We got to give our players some time off.
Yeah.
But 4 months of competitive and that's it? I don't know about that.
It's tough. It really is because honestly, we've talked about it before. I go back to the FaZe tweet or wherever where they're like, we've played in 5 Valorant events in the past 4 months. Our CS team has played in 20 Valorant events or 20 CS events or something. So like it's crazy to see those comparisons. But when you kind of compare it, like I always compare it back to like traditional sports. You compare it to like the NFL, which isn't on all year long, but it's more of a buildup. It gives teams more of a chance to, battle back. And it also gives them that offseason to kind of rest and revitalize themselves. Where like the offseason isn't really an offseason. They don't really have that break in between those 2 splits. And then all of a sudden they're burning themselves out. And by the time it's over, like you don't really have time to rest.
And I gotta be honest, I'm not a big fan of this whole we're separated into 2 groups, but then we don't play our own group. We play the opposite group, so we have we have similar opponents, so you can see how you fare, but you don't get to play against people in your bracket to be able to control who moves up and down. You just have to hope that the other brackets are already decent. Right. There's just a lot that I look at it and I'm like, man, I hope we can see things change because when did this thing start? This started beginning of April, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, beginning of April, we're already almost through the season. Like and again, we're going into LAN season. We're not going to have that much VCT. I feel like for a game that does get a lot of good viewership and has a lot of good attention, they should be able to build up more events. I don't know if it comes down to less money, but more events or less money per event, you know what I mean? Yeah, and more events or how it works. It just seems like we don't quite have enough. But to kind of paint the picture going into the final week for Americas, I think it's a big one that everyone's concerned about. In Group Omega, you have 2 teams. Well, only one team that's playing for their life. Evil Genius has already finished up their season at 2-3. Loud does play against G2, who's funny enough in the playoff picture over in Group Alpha, who's sitting at 3-2. So it's you've got to figure out who there. You figure whoever wins secures in their spot on their side. And if G2 wins, I think that pretty well locks the door on NRG and Sentinels, which is kind of crazy.
It's crazy to see, but also it's like we talked about, like as much as we've been saying, like the format doesn't help you out. You've got no break. Like you are a professional Valorant player. Like this is kind of what you signed up to be. And at this moment, like you're not finding that success. So at this point, G2 could lock them out. It'd be unfortunate to see, but also at the same time, I feel like it gives the rosters, I know like it's always just like, okay, panic button, blow them up, get some new players in here. But like at the same time, give them some time to just like rest, cook, and see what they can do in the offseason.
It's crazy to think that when you and I sit down and record episode 11, literally that evening, the Americas playoffs is already going to be starting. Playoffs! I just hope we can win a game. Are you kidding me? But what is going on already this weekend, which I am so excited about, ALGS is finally back on LAN. And been seeing everyone traveling out to LA. I'm not jealous. You're jealous looking through Twitter. We definitely aren't jealous. But it looks like it's going to be fun, man. A lot going on. Last week we talked about who we thought would be a best fit for the former Black Hand squad that is now under Legends Gaming, as we did see that Easy Flash was having visa issues. So we were wondering who would make a best fit for the duo of Strafing Flame and Player K. That has been decided, and I love the connection. It's Koiful, and for those who don't know, or y'all probably at least know Koiful, because Koiful's a name. He's a hot fragger out there right now. But I love the Black Hand connection. I can't help but wonder if Sir Sue somewhere is sitting there with a big old grin on his face, man. You've got the former duo from the Black Hand APAC South roster connecting up with a player from the NA Black Hand roster, and Koiful heading into Split 1 playoffs.
I just think honestly, like Koiful's such a good player, and I know we were talking about like good feels. Like Koiful kind of slipped my mind, man.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I saw him. I was like, dude, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a really good connection. You talk about the Black Hand connection as well. It's just like you already have those connections built, and it's going to be really fun to like see that roster, see what they can do. I mean, it really does suck that like we don't get to see Easy Flash. I know there's still like those visa issues, and like it's been a thing with like Apex specifically, like throughout the years that like visa issues have been a problem. At the same time, you know, it gives us another exciting roster to watch.
Gives us another exciting roster to watch, an extra story too. So I'm definitely gonna be paying attention. Well,
true.
To be fair, I was already gonna be paying attention to Legends Gaming. My boy Strafing Flame, hashtag that's my IGL right there. That's the homie. Hoping to see them be able to turn up. But before we go in, also, since we aren't talking visa issues, 07's gonna have their whole roster there, which I'm super excited for. Nasky was tweeting at one point that he thought he was gonna have to be rocking solo dolo with both of his boys having some visa issues, although it was later tweeted that he was informed that they weren't going to allow that. They're going to let him get some emergency subs if that was the case. But end up that both of his teammates able to get their visas taken care of pretty well at the last second. They're going to be out there on LAN for him. For a player like Nasky, who, when you look back over the course of especially the last year and a half, I would argue has had the best results in EMEA, to know that his full squad's coming out and going to be on LAN has me pretty excited.
It does.
And Nasky we trust.
Yes, in Nasky, we've trusted in Nasky since the beginning, man. It's awesome, but I'm really excited to see kind of this regional clash, because you're talking about 40 teams. You get 3 different kind of group play sessions. You get to play each of the other groups once. You get 6 games in each of them, 18 games total to decide where you're going from there. Of course, we're recording this on the 1st. By now, when you're seeing this, we're already going to have that stage done and through. So I'm really excited to see not only EMEA bring that 07 roster in, because it would have really broken my heart if they didn't get their visas in.
It would have broken my heart, and it feels like all the time, for especially when you look at Nasky, man, somebody on his team isn't able to make it. So I'm happy to see that he's got the full roster coming in. But, you know, not only do we have, you know, things like that where we've got full teams who are getting out on the LAN, we did have one announcement that came across. I don't want to dig too much on the logistics of it, because I did see that the announcement wasn't supposed to be leaked just quite yet. That's unfortunate for Nocturnal. But I did see that XSET is leaving Apex as well.
Yeah, it seems like they're actually leaving all titles except for Fortnite. So
You think they're just doing they're to become a content org, you think, or what?
I don't know. I feel like they're not a content org. Like I feel like they haven't built up that like that ground level of like, you know, phase or disguised or something. You're like, okay, like, you know, those players, they've got a team, but like, are they building content at the same time? Yes, they are. So I think like it's hard to say, because if they're staying in Fortnite, again, still massive. If they can find success there, very large prize pool. But at the same time, it's weird to see when they've found success, especially with this roster, just pulling out of nowhere.
And I'm seeing a tweet actually from Jake Lucky, good old Jake Sucky over on X, baby. By the way, I met him down at the an event down in Florida last year, 2 years ago. Yeah, really cool dude. But X is pulling out, and this is according to Nocturnal, who was part of the roster. But they're no longer interested in facilitating esports as a whole. They don't think it's profitable. Which I think, especially for an org who, like you said, doesn't necessarily have the content presence to be able to afford to essentially burn their money into esports, it kind of makes sense. Feel bad for the boys out there. Koifel, obviously, you know, still going to be able to perform this week on LAN. Going to be interested to see as far as the rest of the squad, what's going to be going on, where they go, where they land during the off season here. But we're going into LAN. So you talked about it. We've got group stages. Then we've got, the winners bracket, losers bracket. Then there's course, obviously match point. I want you to give me 3 teams, Llama, that you I would say that you expect to win LAN. If you were like, hey, if I had to bet on 3 teams, at least one of these 3 teams is winning.
This one's tough because so I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I know I always do.
TSM and Dark Zero. Yeah. Go ahead.
Listen. No. Listen. I'm smushing 2 into 1 pick.
Okay. I love it.
I think the TSM Dark Zero is an obvious choice. I think both of these teams have showed consistency, are from the best region, go North America, and are going into the finals with some great momentum from success in their home region. So that's my first pick. I think I'm smushing it into 1. They can stay together there. The second is my kind of who I personally want to win, who I think is the best stand-up roster, is DSG. I think, again, I have followed Designful for a long time. I think from G2 to Dojo and now having Timmy, such an insane MNK player on the team, plus the vibes are just good. I think this team is arguably the most fun team to watch on LAN because either they're having fun with Timmy or Designful is screaming his head off, and both are going to be hilarious to watch. And then I think you got to go Dark Horse for the third one. And I think this is honestly a team that
I'm going to ask for a Dark Horse later. So I'm going to save you a Dark Horse.
You're going to save me? I got 5 picks. Let's go. Okay, so if we're actually going for my third one, then I think you have to look at Luminosity. And I think you have to look at a player like Sweet, who, has had success to an extent, but has never raised that trophy. Has always been so close, but has never actually touched the championship medal.
I love it. I love it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same. I'm going to squeeze the obvious, right? The duo into one. I do got to say, I really do like the DSG pick. I just don't see it quite yet for them. I think they're like maybe one more event away. I could see them winning like LAN 2. I just think they're going to be close once again. But I see, for me, I think Space Station Gaming's got something cooking between the Frex Phonies I knew trio. So that would probably be my number 2. And then you've got to give me Charlie's Angels, not Moist. I'm not sure what they're competing under right now, but that would probably have to be my number 3. I think that they've got a point to prove, especially with everything that's going on. I think in particular, when you look at players like Waltzy and MT who have kind of always had to live in the shadows of Big Brother Dark Zero, right? So to be able to come over to NA, not only be up at the top of the leaderboard with them, but then be able to take them down at the top when it matters the most on LAN would be absolutely huge for them. I think Waltzy has a big performance. I think MT does prove that he deserves to be in the conversation of like top 5 IGLs in the world right now. And I think they put on a banger of a performance this weekend.
I like all those. And again, there's so many good choices. That's the thing. Again, there's the obvious. I'm not going to be surprised. Zephyr keeps tweeting out. He's like, the storyline's going to be good either way. We're going to get either TSM, Dark Zero, both have won 3. One's going to win more than the other. Or if they don't win, that's awesome.
Someone wins.
Someone else wins. So I feel like it's going to be a really good event. But I got to say, in DSG's offense, They were one fight away from winning the previous LAN. So
I mean, you could say the same thing about the Legend Squad.
That's true.
They had to fight with TSM after, right? So I mean, or I guess that would have been before that fight. But regardless, I think we got a lot of teams that are going to be close that are going out there. But give me your sleeper pick, not necessarily to win the whole thing, but someone that no one's paying attention to or isn't expecting to do well that you think is going to pop off at LAN.
So this is an org that I know if you guys, you've seen my background, you've seen the shirts I'm wearing. You think I'm a little bit biased towards them, but I promise I'm not. I will say barely slipping in to make LAN, getting signed at the last hour. I think Cloud9. I think this is a roster that wants to prove themselves. And I think you talk about, once again, Chaotic Much specifically. You talk about the connection, going back to G2 with Designful. I thought that squad was amazing, but I think they are all, again, players that have something to prove, especially Naughty, who has been tossed around teams time and time again, wants to say, okay, I am one of the best here too.
I think the one that I'm going to be looking out for the most, and I know people who know me are going to be like, oh, this guy's going over to OCE again. Can't ever cheer for NA, the NA hater, as my boy Moon says. But give me the Boogie Boarders, man. I think when you look at Fussy, KnightYuh in particular, the two of them having to prove a point now on a new roster after having seen their old rosters find some success. And then you also include in Rocky. I think the three of them, yeah, they kind of stumbled their way down the list and ended up 7th in the APAC South region. But I think this is a team that really does have that pop-off potential. They haven't shown it quite yet. Again, this is somebody who maybe not quite hoisted the trophy, but don't be surprised if you see them on Championship Sunday and like in a top 10, 12 scenario.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited because, like you said, Apex is one of those games that's like you have the kind of randomness, but you also have like the chance for all these different regions to pop off. And again, you talk about the storylines. Will it just be North America again? I hope so. I know I'm a fan of North America, but I'd also love to see some of these other squads from the other regions that have found success in their home region, bring it to the LAN and bring the new styles like we talked about. I'm really excited to see the legend pick rate. We've got tons of changes.
Yeah.
We've got a new meta flowing in from all different places. Are we going to see crypto? Is it just going to be Bang Blood? I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see as long as it doesn't end up just being the Bang Blood caustic everywhere. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I think you can hold on to hope. I love it. I love it. When you talk about some of the teams from other regions, though, one that I do really want to point out, I was so happy to see that they were able to get their visas, is Passion. More in particular, Matt Strafey, man, a guy who, because of the conflict in Ukraine, hasn't been able to secure a visa for a while to get to lands that he's rightfully deserved a spot on. Passion finishing in 6th, I know isn't going to have much attention on them, but another team that, like, if I get to see, I just want to see Max play on Sunday, man. I think that would just like really warm my heart. I think his story is one that deserves to be told. So again, maybe a second sleeper team. I don't know that I necessarily believe that they're going to get there. Again, they haven't necessarily shown the results, but man, I hope that we get to see like Max Strafey just pop off on land just once.
Yeah. I hope so too. I honestly really like that squad. I think like another squad that I'm looking at is Navi. I know we're keeping just like listing off names, but they're just like another just fun squad to watch. I mean, specifically talking about Matafe and Tyler. Like those are two players that like I got to cast Tyler before they like got locked in towards the organization. Before Navi, before all this, when they were like, smashing console events down there in the low tiers. But I think they're a kind of fun team. I think Tyler and Matafe just bring like a fun giggle fest to the team. I don't know how to describe it.
I think they definitely bring a really good aura around them to the field. I know one thing that I'm looking very forward to for LAN is hopefully another Sweet Hal interview, because that's just quality content the last couple of times that Rain Day has done that. Hopefully we get to see it again. I'm also going to be excited to see, man, there's a lot of other creators that are down there. So different like podcasters and stuff, kind of seeing what their in-person content they get to come up with. I just know for me personally, I love Apex. I love LAN time. It's a great week. And it starts tomorrow, Llama. We're recording this thing on Wednesday. Unfortunately, I'm not even going to get to watch party the first group, which is probably the group I was most looking forward to, which was Group C versus Group D, because we've got middle school casting in the middle of that tomorrow. But I know I'm going to be watching a whole bunch of Apex. I'm going to be ruining my sleep schedule because it's over on the West Coast and your boy's old and I'm usually going to sleep at a very early time. But we're going to fight our way through it. It's going to be a fun weekend.
It's going to be fun. I mean, I know, like you said, you're just getting into League of Legends as well, but we've also got League of Legends MSI going on the world stage. If you want to ruin your sleep schedule even more, tune in at 4 a.m. Eastern Standard to watch those games, the play-ins happening all this week.
Are we gonna watch some of those with me?
I'm down.
I will. I'll have to see. Because I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing for my sleep, right? Because you know me, I'm usually like a very early riser.
Just don't sleep.
Well, because I'm normally like a 3 a.m. wake up guy. So I'm wondering if instead I do I watch Apex and then I go to the gym afterwards, and then I would be able to watch at least some before going to sleep. Which was my thought process. Maybe watch a little bit of League of Legends. But like you said, man, we've got a packed time of year to be watching stuff. You and I were busy with high school esports when it comes to playoff time as well. A beautiful time to be involved in esports. I'm super excited about it. Anything else pro-wise you want to cover before we wrap up out of here? Because I know we had the interview. I think we might actually be over our hour mark at this point. I don't want to hold these people too long. Nick was throwing a big old fast, but we had him do like 10 extra minutes of editing last time. So anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah, we'll go put them back in the closet, but I don't think any more too much here to go. I do got to give a short shout out to Frost here again. If you're wanting to get involved for the Frost events again on Monday, for this next upcoming Monday is going to be that regular Frost Weekly, and then we have the Frost Polar Flare, the 13th and 14th, $3,000 on the line. Get your team signed up for that one. We've also got Valorant, Smash, everything events going on in the Discord, so make sure to go check that out.
Make sure you check that out. And like Llama said earlier, man, whenever you see the clips and stuff to come up over on your social medias, over on YouTube, man, make sure you let them play it through. You hit the like button, you hit the subscribe button. But that is going to do it for episode number 10. We've done 10 of these things, Llama. Next week is number 11. Should be a lot of fun. We're going to get to break down ALGS LAN. We'll get to talk about the EU qualifier number 4 as well. But until we get you over here for the next one, man, don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere. Game hard and love hard. All right, y'all. That's Llama. I'm Q. For the rest of the crew from the front to the back, y'all have a great rest of your week. Peace.